Welcome back, welcome in. You have found us once again. Shoot the Gap, the fantasy football focus show here to help you to be gruntled with your fantasy football team and your fantasy football decisions. Welcome to your fantasy football podcast show. Yes, that's right. I'm going to specialize on just going over the news that happened from Friday to Saturday. Yeah, so that's what this show is for, just to kind of help you get a handle on all that stuff that's coming at you. So, of course, I am your humble host, Brian, the Amigo Baldwin. So happy that you decided to include me in your fantasy football journey, and I will do my best to help. This is now the show's 192nd show, September 13th, in this hopeful year of our Lord. And man, it's going to be a great show today. So, like I said, I'm basically going to go over all the news that's happened from Friday to today, okay, and either give you peace or help you, get you to act on some news that just broke. So let's go ahead and get started. So, if you've been watching this show or if you're new to the show, let me just tell you that I like to have fun. Okay, that's the whole thing. I love fantasy football, and so I like to just have some fun. So with that in mind, I like to go ahead and go through the news with a segment that I like to call Deal or No Deal. So basically, what I'm going to do is mention some of the football news that has come down the pipe since yesterday, and I'll discuss it if it's a big deal or no deal. All right, so let's go ahead and let's get started. Here we go. The Cleveland Browns. Yeah, man, they are now saying that rookie running back Quinshon Judkins is going to make his debut this Sunday. Deal or no deal? Let's discuss it. Right now, I'd say it's a no deal. Yeah, but with a caveat. Let me go and explain. So the reasoning is that he missed all of training camp and preseason, and there's still a high chance that he's going to be suspended by the NFL. So as far as being in your starting lineup, this is no deal. However, if you have Judkins, this is the time to go to a running back needy team and see what you can get in a trade. I'm going to keep in mind, everybody, that this is actually, after all, it is the Browns, okay? And they have and will still use Dylan Sampson and Jerome Ford. So the reality of the situation is you're looking at a rookie that missed all preseason, that might get suspended, and is on a very questionable team. All right. So just hearing that should give you visions of that scene from Trading Places. Sell, sell, sell. Yeah. So make sure, to jump on that. That's the action that is likely would be the best one's going to help your team out in the long run. All right. Moving on. The Philadelphia Eagles have listed both Dallas Goedert and Will Shipley as out for this week's contest against the Kansas City Chiefs. Deal or no deal? Big deal, in my opinion. Yeah, regarding Dallas Goedert, this is going to open up so many more targets for Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown. So if you're a manager of either of these guys, it's time to breathe easier, since the chance for a bounce back game has just rose probably about 40%. Yeah, which is, I am a manager of A.J. Brown, so I am so happy. Yeah, so thankful to the Lord right now. I mean, I stinks about Dallas Goedert, but yeah, I mean, A.J. Brown. Hopefully that pick will work out. Regarding Will Shipley, let's talk about that. I believe this is telling us two things. Everybody. Firstly, it's saying that the trade for Tank Bigsby is to replace Shipley and his cracked ribs. And secondly, the Eagles, man, it's telling us that they don't believe that A.J. Dillon is good enough player to be backup to Barkley if he goes down. So I know it can be argued that if Barkley does miss any games, that Bigsby and Dillon will be some sort of committee. But based on how the offseason reports were, that Bigsby was looking good and was about to take over the backfield, my feeling is that Bigsby right now is the handcuff for Barkley as long as Shipley is out. Now, word of caution, though, when Shipley is back and if Barkley is out, then we're almost guaranteed staring down the barrel of an RBBC, running back by committee. So just want to make sure and throw that out there. So don't get too excited about Tank Bigsby, I think. And also, if you're wondering, because, you're like, well, it could change things with Shipley being out. Well, if you're wondering, the normal recovery time for cracked ribs, depending on the severity, of course, is somewhere between 6 and 12 weeks. So it's possible that he's out for 3 months. And if you're looking at all the stats and you remembered all the stuff that happened during the off season, chances are you're banking on Barkley being out sometime this season, and 3 months is a long time, everybody. So, yeah, if you have a spot, I'd pick Tank Bigsby, put him in there. Let's just see what happens, right? Just have a spot to play with, especially in the bigger leagues. All right. Or how about this? How about this? This is another thing too. You could take Tank Bigsby and try trading him to the Saquon Barkley manager, see what you can get. Yeah, I mean, these are options that are up to you right now. That right now is up. That's what's really cool about this ambiguity. That we don't know what's going on, is that there's opportunity. So these are the opportunities we're looking at. All right, moving on. Washington Commanders quarterback Jayden Daniels, was seen limping on the sidelines and has gotten an MRI on his knee. Deal or no deal? What do you think? What do you think? Yeah, what do you think? What do you think? I think that this is a deal, a big deal. All right, I'm not being a doomsdayer here, okay? Okay, I'm seriously, I'm not being a doomsdayer. Just want to give this the appropriate attention, all right? Most of the popular fantasy football podcasts recommend it for players who drafted one of the 5 elite quarterbacks, either Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jalen Hurts, Joe Burrow, and Jayden Daniels. Yeah, Jayden Daniels, excuse me. Yeah, they recommended not to grab a backup this early in the season since you'll never use them. Well, friend, it's time to grab a backup. Okay, all right. The waiver wire might be picked over, but the QBs, the quarterbacks, to consider that are under 50% managed in Yahoo leagues are in basically any order you choose. I'll tell you what my order is here in a second, but right now, is just throwing out 3 for you. Michael Penix Jr., Trevor Lawrence, and Mac Jones. Yeah, so that, of course, the caveat with Mac Jones is Brock Purdy being injured, all right? So this is what I would put the priority on. This is my opinion, okay? Putting the priority on, I do have 3 championships, so, this is what I would recommend or just suggest, just for you to think about, would be Michael Penix Jr. because of Drake London, Bijan Robinson, and Darnell Mooney. Yeah, that's Mooney. Excuse me. That's a really strong trio to be able to throw to. That would be the first. The second one would be Mac Jones. Yeah, simply because Christian McCaffrey and Ricky Pearsall. Excuse me. Yeah, I mean those are fantastic options. And the last would be Trevor Lawrence. The reason why I'm putting him on the list because I'm a man of a lot of hope. I mean, we all saw what he looked like last week, but hopefully there are brighter days ahead. All right, so that's the order that I would do. So just choose whichever you like. But if you're a Jayden Daniels manager, don't sleep on this news. All right, chances are he'll be okay. Chances are he is okay. But this is a time to have a backup if you don't already have one. All right, don't freak out, but yeah, you need a backup. All right, moving on. The New England Patriots. Now, again, I'm talking about news that's hit. All right. New England Patriots have traded wide receiver Jalen Polk and a 2028 7th-round pick to the New Orleans Saints for a 2027 6th-round pick. Deal or no deal? Yeah, this one's one of the easier ones. It's a no deal. I mean, come on, everybody. Polk is on season-ending IR. Okay, nothing to see here in 2025, and we move on. All right, moving on. The Kansas City Chiefs have ruled wide receiver Xavier Worthy out for this coming week. Deal or no deal? Again, this injury has been analyzed within an inch of its life, okay? So I'm only mentioning it because some podcasts actually thought that Worthy would be back this week. However, this does mean, I mean, of course he's not back, so we're not, this is no surprise, okay? So why is this news? The news is, all right, that, at least this is the way that I'm looking at it, and just want to share with you, everybody, is that this does mean that Xavier Worthy could be back more sooner than later. And all these articles that we're seeing about Tyreek Hill or Jayden Jennings being traded to the Chiefs right now, September 13th, are basically clickbait at this point. All right. So it looks like the Chiefs are not going to be motivated to take on big salary or a problem, excuse me, or a problem, because it looks like Worthy might actually be able to work with this shoulder brace thing. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. All right. So, yeah, this is just trying to tell you to cool your jets. And on Tyreek Hill and Jayden Jennings news right now, going to the Chiefs. All right, that's all that is. All right, moving on. Las Vegas tight end Brock Bowers hasn't practiced either Thursday or Friday. How we feeling about that, everybody? Brock Bowers managers. I would say this is a big deal. Okay, big deal. Yeah. This should be a notice to stay away from Brock Bowers this week. All right. Even if he does suit up, there's no guarantee that he will finish the game. So if you're in a league that still archaically has a tight end only spot and still has the waiver wire training wheels on, all right, you've probably missed out on the hot waiver wire pickups this week. All right. Your best bet is likely to go after Michael Mayer and start him instead. All right. So, especially since the game is on Monday night. So, to be clear, all right, even if Brock Bowers starts or says that he's going to play, if you're a Brock Bowers manager, you should have Michael Mayer on your team if you don't already have a better tight end and start him instead of Bowers. If you have another tight end, I would go ahead and run with him. All right, even like was the guy from the Saints, Johnson. I mean that would be a better move. Okay, and maybe even I would probably stay away from Evan Ingram because he's kind of in the same boat with the kind of gimpy. Because what we're looking at here, everybody, is that tight end already kind of shows a little bit. They don't really produce that high as it is. All right, but you want a player that's going to last the whole game, and I don't know if Bowers is going to do that, and that's scary right now. All right, the only caveat would be is that if you already have a win, you're 1-0 right now, okay, but if you're 0-1, I wouldn't chance it. I wouldn't chance it. All right, moving on. The Green Bay Packers have placed wide receiver Jayden Reed on IR due to a broken collarbone. Deal or no deal? Well, of course, this is a big deal. Of course, this is a big deal. There is one less pass catcher to convolute the whole Packers wide receiver room, right? So that's a big thing. So that should make any type of Matthew Golden people feel a little bit better, even though Matthew Golden didn't really do much. You should feel better about him, but I wouldn't trade for him or, try to go get him or anything like that. Matthew Golden, that is. All right. See, what this is that this is making, one of the wide receivers more viable. Who it is, we'll find out. Probably Romeo Doubs. It probably increases Romeo Doubs. All right. And in this one game, whenever Reed went out on Thursday, it did make Kyle Tucker, tight end, not Kyle, Tucker Kraft, sorry, to make tight end Tucker Kraft, the apple of quarterback Jordan's eye, and he just focused on him. Basically. That was the guy, right? But after an outing like you saw with Tucker, it's impossible not to be excited about him, right? And he's worth having on your team. I definitely would say that he's somebody that you would want to grab. Absolutely. All right. It wasn't that long ago, everybody, when Robert Tonyan was a thing. So it's possible that Tucker might actually be a top 5 tight end this season. Or it could be that now that teams saw this and the Packers have had a week to create a game plan without Jayden Reed, all right, that there's different results in week 3. All right. I mean, it's more fun, not to think negative. So let's hope that Tucker is the second coming of Jimmy Graham and not just this like little thing that popped one week. All right. So let's just look at that. It's just the only nervy thing is that he didn't really do much in week 1. And here we are in week 2 in this situation, and then we see this pop. So let's just see what happens. All right. But I will tell you, okay, that Kyle Tucker, Kyle Tucker. Sorry about that. Tucker Kraft is definitely somebody that you would want on your team, but probably not in your starting lineup for next week. Seriously, I would caution against it if you can. All right. Regarding Reed, the normal recovery time for a broken collarbone is 6 to 8 weeks. So if your league does have an IR spot and Christian Watson is out there, this will be a good time to grab him and place him there. All right. There's a chance that Watson will be back in 3 weeks. Of course, that's way within that 6 to 8 weeks time frame, and he should be back before that 6 to 8 week timeline. So you might be actually looking at a really, really good wide receiver that you can add on in about a month's time. Yeah, and that could lead the Packers by backfield and Christian Watson. So that's would be the action here. The action would be to add Tucker Kraft onto your team and also try to grab Christian Watson if you can. All right, moving on. This is actually the last one. I'm telling you, man, it's pretty cool. Yeah, I try to put this all like as fast as I can, so that you can get this news, you can digest it real quick and help you make a decision. So here we go. Last one. The Washington Commanders have made it official, have placed Austin Ekeler on season and likely career-ending IR. Is this a deal or no deal? Yeah. Well, of course it's a big deal. Okay, of course it's a big deal. This opens the door wide open for offseason sensation Bill Krosky-Merritt, but it also means that we're likely going to see a trade for a running back from the Commanders. So right now, September 13th, it's looking like it's going to be a lot of Bill with Jeremy McNichols and Chris Rodriguez kind of sprinkled in. So if you're a Bill Krosky-Merritt manager, I'd be pretty excited, and I would start him in the next matchup. I mean, just for pure volume alone, So I think that's a really, really good thing. I know that there's been some words saying that it's it's a bad thing or whatever, or it's going to be a committee, and it quite possibly be. But I think it's good enough to where, and Bill Krosky-Merritt looked good enough to where it's somebody that I would look into starting next week. All right. But also, I don't want to speculate on who the Commanders would trade for, but I wouldn't be surprised if Ramondre Stevenson or Najee Harris is a Commander before Halloween, if the rookies are able to do what it looks like they're able to do. But, between the two, let me ask you real quick. Let me just go and pause for a second and ask you. If you had an option between Najee Harris and Ramondre Stevenson, who would you think would be a better bet? Yeah, or a better fit and a better would produce better on the Commanders. Let's just think about it. Right? It's kind of hard to say, right? It's hard to say because Najee Harris would be like, oh, well, yeah. I mean, once his eyes healed, he should be. I mean, he's a powerful, strong guy that just is boom, 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 right? But Ramondre Stevenson's a pass catcher, and you already have a boom, 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 strong guy with Bill Krosky-Merritt. So Ramondre Stevenson, who looks like he's in slow motion, or Najee Harris, who might just be the same thing as Bill Krosky-Merritt. We'll see. It's interesting to think about. Just wanted to throw that out there. All right. So that does it for the Saturday news show. It's my hope, everybody, that this podcast will be a nice supplement to your normal digestion of fantasy football. So please make sure to hit the like and subscribe button and click that bell so that you will get alerts when the Saturday shows become available. And a quick reminder, I do have a live sports talk show called Drive Time Sports with Brian and Lori every Thursday from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. exclusively on highvolumemusicradio.com or on the free High Volume Music Radio app. So make sure and download that app. Check out the show. Again, it's a live show. So if you want to call up, it's on Thursday. So if you want to call up to discuss fantasy football, please do. I give out the number. The number is readily available, and I'd love to go ahead and discuss that and answer any kind of fantasy football questions you may have. All right, it's time for parting shots. Now, this is a little bit of advice that I like to give before I close the show. So today, I want to make sure to remind you to not put theory into your starting lineup, all right? It's exciting to see a player with a 1-week blow up and put them immediately into your lineup with dreams of having the biggest blowout of the week bouncing your head. But to be honest with you, it's pretty dangerous, all right? Unless you're forced to, I would put the Tucker Krafts and the Nick Chubbs of the world on your team, but on your bench just to see what they do. So it's better to make sure and watch them blow up on your bench than have them lead your team to disaster in your starting lineup. And I'm telling you, everybody, this is speaking from experience. All right. Last week, when the Sunday morning news broke that Nick Chubb was going to be a bell cow back, man, I was so excited. I took on my flex position, I took out Garrett Wilson, all right, and put in Nick Chubb, thinking, hey, I don't know what's going to happen with Garrett Wilson, but hey, bell cow back. Hey, that's always fantasy points, right? No, it didn't work out. Only by the amazing grace of God was I able to eke out a win. And boy, did I learn a lesson. And that's the lesson that I want to share with you. Okay, so let's go ahead and close this thing out like I always do. The neat little statement. So remember, everyone, in fantasy football, as in life, don't dream it, be it. All right, thank you so much for watching. And Lord willing, you'll see me next week.